I hereby call the meeting of the Brockton City Council Finance Committee for Monday, December 21st, 2020, 7 p.m. to order. Out of respect for public health and in response to Governor's declared state of emergency, this meeting will be closed to the public, and interested parties can instead access the deliberations via live stream on www.youtube.com. This meeting is being held in accordance with Governor Charlie Baker's signed open meeting law order dated March 12th, 2020, which relieves a public body from the requirement of Section 20 of Chapter 30A that it conduct its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provision to ensure public access to the deliberations of the public body for interested members of the public through adequate alternative means. The youtube.com is /user/TheBrocktonChannels/live. I'm going to ask everyone to please mute your phones if you're not speaking. Otherwise, it's very hard to hear anybody. So please, that's for counselors and invited guests as well. I will, at this time, I'm going to do a roll call attendance. Actually, Madam Clerk, Erin, can you do that? Or if you're
Certainly.
not prepared?
I am prepared, yes.
Okay.
Counselor Azak,
Yes, present.
Counselor Cardozo. Counselor Cardozo?
She's not on.
Okay, Counselor Cruz,
Yes, present.
Counselor Eanieri. Counselor Eanieri?
Someone's got me muted. Present.
Okay, Counselor Farwell,
Present.
Counselor Lally,
Present.
Counselor Mendez,
Present.
Counselor Thomas Monahan,
Present.
Counselor Nicastro. Oh, okay. Counselor Nicastro,
You're muted, Susan.
I apologize. Present, good evening.
good evening. Counselor Rodriguez
Present.
and Counselor Thompson.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's 10 counselors that are present. At this time, Counselor Cruz, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, in the interest of thinning out this crowd, I'd like to make a motion to take items 2 through 8 collectively and out of order.
Second.
A motion was made and properly seconded to take items 2 through 8 out of order.
They'll need to be read.
I'm sorry?
They'll need to be read now.
Yes, they will need to be read. Is there any objections? There's no objections. Madam Clerk, you can read items 2 through 8.
Appointment of retired Sergeant Michael V. DiManio as a special police officer. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Michael V. DiManio. Reappointment of Robert Graham of 6 Alphonse Road, Brockton, Massachusetts, to the Council of Aging Board of Directors for a 3-year term ending December 2023. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Robert Graham. Reappointment of Irene R. Clegg of 179 Bellevue Avenue, Brockton, Mass, to the Council on Aging of Directors for a 3-year term ending December 2023. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Irene R. Clegg. Reappointment of Daniel S. Clegg of 179 Bellevue Avenue, Massachusetts, to the Council on Aging Board of Directors for a 3-year term ending December 2023. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Daniel S. Clegg. Reappointment of Clayton A. Reichenberg Jr. of 115 Darren Drive, Brockton, Mass, to the Council of Aging Board of Directors for a 3-year term ending December 2023. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Clayton A. Reichenberg Jr. Reappointment of Joan Madden of 96A Earl Street, Brockton, Massachusetts, to the Council on Aging of Board of Directors for a 3-year term ending December 2023. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Joan Madden. Reappointment of Carol Delory of 19 North Bassett Road, Brockton, Mass, to the Council on Aging Board of Directors for a 3-year term ending December 2023. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Carol Delory.
Make a motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
A motion was made and properly seconded.
On the motion,
Counselor Nicastro.
thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Madam President. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I just want to say how much I appreciate it. I'm sure I speak for all of us. the willingness of these people this evening to serve as members of the Board of the Council on Aging. I'm grateful for their service. It's a wonderful place, and we hope that it continues serving seniors for some time to come. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. I know that we have a lot of the reappointments here. Did anybody want to speak on any of your reappointments? Thank you for being here this evening. And I know we also have the director from Council on Aging, Janice Fitzgerald, that was here, that's on with us as well. So thank you, everyone, for being here this evening, and congratulations on your reappointments. And we look forward to, we thank you for your service. So a motion was made and properly seconded to send the reappointments favorably back to the full city council. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Roll call.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo, Cruz,
Yes.
Eanieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez.
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The appointments go to the city council favorably. Go back to the full city council. I know that I had two hands that are up. I don't know if those were previous or because of the motion. No, you're all set, Councilor Cruz? Yes. Thank you. Madam Clerk, item number 1.
Ordered that the City Council of the City of Brockton finds that there is a clear need for an urban renewal plan. In order to achieve the approved objectives on the Brockton Comprehensive Plan, a blueprint for Brockton, that the Downtown Trout Brook Urban Revitalization Plan, as described in Exhibit A, prepared by Harriman and RKG Associates, dated June 2020, is an urban renewal plan prepared in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 121B and 760 CMR 12.00, that the City Council approves the boundaries of the Downtown Trout Brook Urban Revitalization Plan located in City Clerk's office for review. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Robert May, Director of Planning and Economic Development, Robert Jenkins, Executive Director of Brockton Redevelopment Authority.
Time having arrived, I declare this hearing open. Is there anyone here in favor? Please come forward and state your name to the clerk. I know the last time we had this hearing, we were waiting for some information from Mr. Robert Jenkins and Mr. May, and we did receive it. I know the council did receive it. Is Mr. Jenkins on the call with us, or Mr. May, would you like to speak on this?
Yes, thank you, councilors. I am on the call. It's a little different for me. I forgot that City Hall was closed and stayed in the office until 7 o'clock, but that's okay. So before you, I sent out last Friday, I believe, on the 14th, sent out the amended, revised assessor's information on the property values. That information has now been included in the draft. I do believe we got a email earlier this evening, right before the meeting, from Councilor Nicastro looking for Appendix A and Appendix D. I think Mr. May did send that to you, Councilor Nicastro.
Yes, I also wanted B and C. And I think I haven't had a chance to open what he sent to me. I did write back and mention to him, I want to read them all.
Sure, and that's understandable. I can tell you Appendix A is really the same thing that's on page 38 and 39. However, it does include pictures of the properties. Appendix D, which I believe is the environmental notification form, which is a 22-page Mass Environmental Protection Agency's environmental description. Not much has changed, or there's nothing really that changed on that, so we can get that out to you. I think, Rob, if you want to comment also on Appendix, I believe it's C.
And C, excuse me, gentlemen, C is the one I'm most interested in because it is quoted and referred to somewhat extensively in your executive summary.
Mhm. And I do believe, Rob, did you send that out, Rob?
Madam President, through you, Appendix C is usually prepared after all the approvals are done, because basically what it is a list of and dates of the approval process. So we didn't update that because we haven't had City Council's approval yet.
Well, excuse me, Madam Chair, through you. Appendix B is municipal approvals and documentation of public process. Appendix C is economic development and real estate market conditions and trends.
Yes.
So,
And Appendix C is quoted in the executive summary.
You do have Appendix C.
did you send
Although
that, Rob?
Although it's listed as Appendix B, but that's from the master plan, but it is the same executive market conditions.
It's the very same thing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what is it dated? How recent is it?
It's from 2019.
Okay. Where, and that wasn't being, I know some, what was it, facts and figures were being updated?
Those have been updated. The values, the assessor's value,
Okay.
which was
Yes.
requested by the council.
Okay, but this was not updated.
This meaning, be
Appendix-
specific, Counselor, which wasn't updated,
Appendix C.
which is the, if I'm not
Economic
mistaken.
development and real estate market conditions and trends.
No, that was not updated, Counselor.
All right, I'll have.
That would require engaging the firms at extra cost to do that. We have not prepared that.
Okay. I will have a look at that. And also I had some questions, but I'll defer to others first. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Castro. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Jenkins, for appearing today. And again, thank you for all your work on this plan. So just taking a quick review of the new updated figures, I see that there's about a $7 million increase in assessed value between the prior URP and this current updated URP. Can you just kind of give a brief description of the increase in the $7 million? Was that just small increases throughout all of the properties, or is there any one large increase that makes most of the $7 million increase in assessed value?
I would probably say, just on my analysis of it, Counselor, it's an accumulation of all the properties' values going up.
That is correct.
That's really my only question. Again, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors have any questions at this time for Mr. Jenkins or Mr. May?
Me.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? Counselor Castro, did you put your hand back up?
Yes, but if you'd like me to wait, Madam Chair, I can.
No, we're just going to move forward with the hearing. Did you have questions, or did you, for Mr. May or Mr. Jenkins?
I do, yes. On page 4, the document discusses Brockton being a challenging market for ground up development of almost any type. And I would just like them to take a moment and explain that.
Mr. Jenkins, would you like to go first?
Sure. Counselor, I think that's because we are an urban city, and this particular site is challenging. It is, as you know, the CSX site, which was actually quoted several times. There are certain portions of this site that, how should I say, has been cleaned to a certain level. Everyone knows it's a railroad track. There is a slight contamination, or I'm not a LSP or an environmentalist, but what I've been told by consultants and what the environmental report says, there is some contamination. So it is a challenging site. I think in Brockton, this is probably one of the more challenging sites. I think, as we said, this is a 20-year plan, and I think the mayor would agree. We're not, let's just say, this site and this plan for the next 20 years is actually prepping Brockton for post-COVID or sometime there down the road. That's my opinion. As I said, I'm not an environmentalist. I can only go by what the consultants say.
Okay. And then also on page 4, it talks about the city's industrial businesses are almost exclusively small scale operation involving legacy manufacturing and then storage, warehousing, and distribution. Just address for me, what is legacy manufacturing?
I can more so tell you what storage distribution is.
Can I jump in? Legacy manufacturing are older manufacturing firms that have been in the city for dozens of years. They tend to make products that are components to other manufacturing operations, but mostly legacy means that they are older manufacturers.
And as far as distribution, Counselor, those are things, you know, I'm thinking plumbing, carpentry. These are light, not necessarily manufacturing, but distribution, liquor, landscaping, kind of secondary. I wouldn't call it secondary. Those things that commonly are in Brockton: carpenters, plumbers, electricians, supplies.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. I understand that. Further down on page 4, it says the city's strength as a regional center for health care has led to over 13,700 local jobs, making it the city's largest employment sector. And so I ask, do you foresee that the commercial flex space would focus on healthcare? Do you foresee healthcare industry being in this area, being that this is already our quote strength? Close.
Counselor, if I may, we are making a consistent effort to attract healthcare and life science industries to Brockton. There's an opportunity to focus redevelopment of this area towards those. We don't anticipate doctors' offices or hospitals being built here, but certainly small biomanufacturing, life science manufacturing,
medical supplies,
those sorts of things. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Reading the executive summary a bit further, it seems to lean toward housing, and it seems to favor, in a limited fashion, single family homes. Can you speak to that?
I probably can speak to that a little better than Mr. May. My history here in the city has been around single family housing, home ownership. I think that's, to be quite honest, I think that's Brockton's right now bread and butter is home ownership. If I had a crystal ball, Counselor, I would say yes, that's kind of, as you see, we have that as a part of our component in the Trout Brook area, only because we know that first-time home buyers, they like Brockton area. I mean, we lead the state in first-time home buyers.
And you have that from studies and from information coming out of the banking industry and all that. Mm-hmm. I would be interested to know, do you have a statistic as to how many of those first-time home buyers are Brockton natives or are coming from a family in Brockton, or have previously lived in Brockton?
I don't have that information in front of me, that anecdotal information, Counselor. I can get that. I think from what I know and what I've seen, a lot of it has been people that are from outside. We're getting a lot of folks from Quincy, Boston, I don't think that's any surprise to anyone, if the data proves that. I can try to get that information for you, though, for sure.
Okay, thank you. And my other last comment would be, I am concerned about the businesses and homes that will be displaced by this redevelopment plan, but I will defer to others at this time. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. At this time, Counselor Fowler. You need to unmute, Counselor Fowler.
You had me well trained. I muted myself. I've spoken on this before. This is a purely speculative plan based on hopes and dreams that someone will purchase the 30-acre CSX site, that it will be cleaned properly so that there are no environmental concerns. I think piggybacking on what Councilor Nicastro said, I'm concerned about the property owners. One of them is waiting to comment later, Mr. Peter Bissett, because I gave him the link to the public hearing. I'll throw this out to my councilors, my colleagues. Just imagine if you own property within this area and you're on the list of potential acquisition and relocation. Do you think you're going to be able to sell your property if you wanted to? Do you think somebody's going to come along and buy your house if you'd like to perhaps relocate to another area in Brockton and sell your current house that's within this area? Because the potential buyer would say, well, why would I buy a piece of property when sometime in the next 15 or 20 years, the city may come along and say, I want that property. We're going to take it by eminent domain. It's part of the downtown Trout Brook urban renewal area. I think this has merit. I've said before, I think it is too grand in its scope. I think it should be narrowed. I think we should focus on the city-owned properties that we have and see if we could craft something that might start to spur some interest in that area. But this to me looks like a plan that you're going to shelve it and you're going to hope and pray that someone comes along and purchases that property and does all of the things which need to be done to make it successful. And I praise my colleague, Councilor Thompson, for mentioning the $7 million increase. You know, at some point, folks, and the prices are going to go up. If they went up 7 million in the last 2 or 3 years, just imagine if we implemented this plan, what the price would be for the city to acquire properties 10 or 15 years from now. So that's my take on it. I think there is a more immediate need for jobs and for economic development in the available properties and buildings that we have here in the city, rather than something that might yield dividends in the next 15 or 20 years. And I thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Counselor Farwell. At this time, is there anybody that would like to speak in favor? If not, I declare that portion of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition? If so, please come forward and state your name to the clerk. You can do that by raising your hand, either with Mr. Bissett.
Yes. My
State
name is
your
Peter
name and
Bissett.
address to the clerk.
I've been a member of the Club National for 50 years. Okay, we've been a fixture in this city on the east side of Brockton for 100 years.
Mr. Bissett, do you mind just stating your full name and address so we can have that in the record, please?
Yeah, it's Peter T. Bissett, 21 Bell Drive, Whitman, Mass. And I've been a member of the Club National French Club for 50 years. And to me, it's an abomination that you want to relocate us, because we were at the Salvation Army. We were at the old mattress factory first, then the Salvation Army. Now we're at 170 Court Street. And you know, we've been a fixture here for 100 years. We have a lot of police officers that are members here. And, you know, you've never had a problem with us in the city of Brockton. And now you want to relocate us. It's like, it's a shame. It's a shame because, you know, I mean, where are you going to put us? Where would you put us? You've got on the east side of Brockton, on the same area, within 1 square block. Where are you gonna put us now? That's my question to you people.
Thank you, Mr. Bissett. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? If so, please state your name and address to the clerk. Seeing none, that portion of the hearing is closed. At this time, the hearing is closed. Counselors, I will entertain a motion unless counselors have questions for Mr. Jenkins.
Madam Chairwoman, I motion to approve favorably.
A motion was made
Second.
and properly seconded to send this favorably back to the full city council. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Azak,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eanieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
No.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan, Counselor Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Thompson.
Yes.
So that's 9 in the affirmative and 1 no.
The order goes back favorably to the full city council. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins, Mr. May, and thank you, Mr. Bissett, for being here this evening. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Counselor.
Madam Clerk, item number 9.
Ordered. Transfer of $1,500 from Veteran Services Humanistic Supplies and Costs to Veteran Services Departmental Equipment Rent Lease. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, David Farrell, Director of Veteran Services.
Good evening, gentlemen. Did Mr. Farrell or Mayor, did anyone want to speak on this item?
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
A
Second.
motion was made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Azak?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Eanieri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Thompson.
Yes.
That's 10 in the affirmative.
The order goes back favorably to the full city council. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Clarkson. I saw you there in the, I didn't know if you had your hand up, but thank you this evening. Thank you. Madam Clerk, item number 10.
Ordered. Appropriation of $136,000 from Executive Office of Administration and Finance, EOAF, Community Compact Grant, to Mayor's Office Community Compact Grant Fund. No match is required. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening.
Gentlemen.
Good evening, members of the committee. I'm really excited about this. As you all recall, one of my pledges when I took office was to modernize technology at City Hall. And this truly is a game changer. $136,000 no match grant from the Commonwealth. And I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Polito because I talked to her about this idea and she supported it wholeheartedly. For many months now, we've had a collaboration between my office, Kerry Richards and Danielle Littman, along with the IT director, Bill Santos, with Jim Plouffe, the building commissioner, and with Troy Clarkson, the CFO. The idea is to be able to modernize the permitting process so that Brockton residents or non-residents that need to do permits can do it online, real-time, 24/7, that they don't need to come to City Hall. They could do it outside of the Commonwealth even. It's a streamlined process. Now, I want to make it clear that our projections to get this system up and running are going to exceed $136,000. So it's a no match, but we probably will need about another 70 to 75 to get the full thing operational. And I'm going to have the CFO explain to you. I know in his memo today, it did detail it, but this truly is a game changer. I've gotten a lot of contacts recently, once this was publicized in the local newspaper, from developers and builders that said, this is a long time coming. This is great for Brockton. So again, I respectfully ask that you support this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Clarkson, did you want to speak on this?
Yes, Madam Chairman, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the council. So there very well may be and likely will be additional costs to this purchase of permitting software, but we believe it's an appropriate expense for the abandoned building fund, because part of the work that will be done will be work consistent with the uses of those funds. As you know, that's a revolving fund that the city council renews and votes on every year. There's an annual spending limit of $250,000. And so we believe that any additional funds that are required to purchase and implement the software will require no further appropriation by the council.
Thank you. Any questions, councilors?
Motion for. Okay.
Councilor Cruz?
Just a quick question to Mr. Clarkson. About how much is in that fund right now? Do you know offhand?
I do. There's approximately $1.8 million in the fund right now.
And we can only spend 250 a year without changing that.
Right. Well, that's set by you annually when you appropriate it, but you can also make subsequent appropriations from the fund, as you did earlier this year, to raise some abandoned buildings.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Cruz. Councilor Lally?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to say that I think this is a long time coming. So, commend the administration for that. I'm voting for this. I will have some interest, maybe some questions about the abandoned buildings fund, but absolutely I'm on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Motion for favorable recommendation.
Second.
A motion was made and properly seconded to send this favorably back to the full council. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Azak,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eanieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro, Councilor Nicastro.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The order goes back favorably to the full city council. Madam Clerk, actually, Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I make a motion we take 11 and 12 collectively, since basically they're going to be talking about the same thing.
Sure, so maybe we could hear from the CFO first and then have the resolve. That's what your intention, correct?
I assume the information we're going to get in number 11 is pretty much the same information we're going to get in 12. So it seems that we should take them together to save some time.
Is there any objections, councilors? I don't see any objections. So we're taking number 11 and 12 collectively. Mr. Clarkson, did you want to open this up?
I think they need to be read.
Oh, it needs to be read. That's right. Madam Clerk, number
Ordered. 11. Ordered that the city of Brockton appropriate the amount of $98 million for the purpose of paying costs of designing, constructing, and equipping a public safety complex to house the police, fire, and information technology departments, as well as the Brockton Emergency Management Agency, including the payment of costs of designing and improving roadways and utilities in the vicinity of the public safety complex, making improvements to enhance traffic flow, and for the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto. To meet this appropriation, the city treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the city therefore. Any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. Further ordered that the city treasurer is authorized to file an application with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Municipal Finance Oversight Board to qualify under General Law, Chapter 44A, any and all bonds or notes of the city authorized by this vote, and to provide such information and execute such documents as the Municipal Finance Oversight Board of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts may require. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer. Resolve that the mayor, chief financial officer, and such other individuals as the mayor may determine to be appropriate be invited to a finance committee meeting on December 21st, 2020, to provide information to the city council on the status of the public safety facilities project. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Emmanuel Gomes, Chief of Police, Michael Williams, Chief of Fire, Robert May, Director of Planning and Economic Development, Stephen Hook, Director of Brockton Emergency Management Agency, William Santos, Director of Information Technology, Sean Schmiegel, KBA Architects, Richard Marks, CHA, and Joseph Sullivan, CHA.
Councilors, we also have Mr. Todd Costa that here with us this evening from KBA Architects. So welcome everybody. I'm not sure.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I want to thank you and the committee. This is a really historic night for the city of Brockton, and this is a follow-up from previous conversations that we've had in the City Council Finance Committee. What's before you tonight is the authorization that hopefully the City Council will allow us to go out and bond the new, sleek, technology-driven public safety building. Public safety building, as I've explained before, will include police and fire, but also will include BEMA, Brockton Emergency Management, and IT. We're going to take IT away from the core building at Brockton High and bring them into one setting, one-stop shopping setting. It just makes sense. The $98 million is the maximum amount. So if we get this approved, we cannot exceed that. The goal is to go under that. That's the goal, but it's a projection. It's a hard number. The gentlemen and ladies that are on tonight are the experts, and I want to thank the council president and Councilor at Large Farwell. Every Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning, we have a Zoom with all the individuals here, including the two councilors that I mentioned, to talk about this. Also, Deputy Chief Brian Nardelli a lot of times is on, and Deputy Chief Galligan is on behalf of the chief. But this really is something that I think is going to be a game changer for decades, for really decades. And so Troy has done a lot of due diligence tonight to answer your questions, but I'm really, really proud to be here before you tonight. And the biggest thing is, if you approve this, we're going to go on the record tonight that this will not increase taxes whatsoever, and Troy can delve into that further. But we are really excited to present this tonight to the council. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor. It is an exciting time, and it is we're looking forward to this. So welcome everybody that's here on this resolve, as well as I know we have Mr. Clarkson. So I don't know which order would be best. I know Councilor Farwell filed the resolve. He sponsored it. So Mr. Clarkson, did you want to speak, or did you want us to go in with the resolve first? What do you think you'd like to do?
Madam Chairman, it would probably be appropriate to speak about the cost and the financing first before we get into the specifics of the proposal, because I think it's really important to reiterate a point that the mayor just made. And I don't think we can overstate the importance of the plan that we've put together, and the fact that we are able to design and construct a new police and fire headquarters for up to $98 million and not ask for additional support from the taxpayers. That is, the mayor's correct. It's not only historic, it's remarkable. And it's due to the hard work of many of the people on this call and my team. With your indulgence, I'll just very briefly talk a little bit about that plan and how it has come together and how we anticipate acquiring the $98 million. So You may remember that several months ago, I made a presentation at the Finance Committee and demonstrated for you in graphic form the trajectory of the city's debt. And we have a significant amount of debt that's retiring in 2028. So we have begun to work very hard, and I've assembled a working group that includes our debt advisor, Hilltop Securities, our bond counsel, our treasurer, Marty Brophy, former CFO, Jay Condon, the budget director, Karen Praval, and myself. And we now meet on a weekly basis to plan and to project and look at not only our bonded indebtedness, but also our retirement payments to fulfill our unfunded retirement liability, because we're not looking at just the debt in a vacuum. We're planning out the next decade or more of payments so that we can manage this project within the levy limit, that is within our annual budgeted payments for principal and interest. So in those meetings, we have developed a plan, and I'm comfortable saying tonight to you and underscoring what the mayor said, that the payments for this project will be within the operating budget, and we will not seek a debt exclusion for this project, so that all of the payments will be out of our annually budgeted funds. And that will not be at the expense of other programmatic needs and other departments. So I think it's really important to lay that as the foundation for this discussion, so that members of the council and members of the public understand that we're able to really build this modern facility, but at the same time, keep it affordable. I'm happy to answer any questions on that, but I think that should really set the stage for the rest of this discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkson. Councilors, do you have any questions for Mr. Clarkson?
Yeah, it's like,
Councilor Cruz?
so $98 million bonded over how many years?
Well, so we're working that out, but right now, Councilor, we are working under the assumption that because of the sheer size of that borrowing, that we will go out 30 years. And so I can tell you, 98 million, 30 years at approximately 2.5%, which is itself a conservative figure, because we likely could access funds at a lower rate, but that would be principal and interest of about $4.6 million a year.
And approximately how much of our debt load that we can carry will that be? Well, my question, I guess, is if we move forward with this, and obviously we know we want to,
That's
will
an
it
excellent question.
handcuff us on the need to do other things that may come up?
It will not, and here's why. Because our annual spending, well, first of all, let me say this. There are bond rating agencies don't like you to have any more than roughly 10% of your operating budget for principal and interest payments. For us, that would be anywhere between $35 and $40 million a year. Right now, our payments are approximately $16 million a year. So we're well below that threshold that the rating agencies would be comfortable with. However, as we talked about before, in 2028, that goes from $16 million a year down to $2 million a year when the pension obligation debt retires. So that's really what we're working on, is how to fit this in to that model. But because we have such a large window of opportunity, we can take on this and other projects that we will likely discuss in the near future and do those within the levy limit.
Well, that's actually kind of where I'm going, and some of it's so the people at home understand that this isn't done in a vacuum, because we certainly are going to have, and the school building fund out of the state can be a big help, but we certainly have the high school to be looking at, and that's going to be a major, major investment, even if we're only paying a percentage with the state school building fund. So we've got some other major projects that are going to be coming up, but you're comfortable that we'll be in good shape as far as that level of debt that we can assume?
No question. So because of those figures that I just mentioned, I think there's ample flexibility to fund this and other smaller projects. Our share of the high school project in the very early preliminary planning stages will be roughly $70 million. when we look at taking on that debt, again, at the time, we'll closely examine the dynamics, and maybe at that time, that may be a candidate for debt exclusion, or maybe not. But for now, for this project and some of the other smaller ones that you'll see, maybe some debt to fix the stadium and conference center that the mayor has talked about. Perhaps some work on the city hall. We do have a capital plan that in the coming weeks you will see. And so we do have an ambitious capital plan before us to buy and build things that the city needs. And I can always come back and present again the presentation that we did earlier that shows you that drop-off and how we plan to manage these expenses.
That was a very good presentation. We know what the public feels about debt exclusions here, so
right.
We know that's really not a tool in our tool bag. I don't believe so. I just want to make sure we're not biting off more than we can chew. Now, this project isn't one we can put off anyways. We're fortunate that we've had our police and fire not put our feet to the fire in the past. They're not working in good conditions. So it is something we have to do, but we just need to be as conservative as we can with this bonding. So thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Troy. Just a quick question. So if it's the will of the council to approve this bonding, what fiscal year does this come onto our books to begin payback for?
So generally, payments begin the year after you borrow. The exact funding strategy for how to acquire that 98 million will really be determined at the time that we need to access the cash. It'll be based on market conditions and interest rates, anywhere from borrowing a large chunk of money up front to take advantage of interest rates to going interest only for several years until that drop off occurs. So we will keep you informed as the process proceeds, but really exactly when that hits the books, as you said, will be a game time decision based on the market conditions at the time we need to access the money. Because remember, what is before you is simply the authorization to borrow up to the 98 million, and then the decision how much to access and when to access it will be made as the project progresses.
So the 98 million is not borrowed all at one time. Where we're authorizing up to 98, you're saying there may be borrow certain amounts at certain periods dependent upon interest rates and other conditions?
Yes, that's typically.
Or is it all borrowed at the same time?
And here in Brockton and in virtually every municipality of which I'm aware, yeah. And so the legislative action is to authorize the borrowing, and that's a maximum amount. And then the actual money, the bonds go to market when the money is needed.
Okay, and that's something that you'll obviously keep the city council apprised of when it's borrowed, under what conditions that's being borrowed, and how much is being borrowed.
Happy to do that, but just so that I'm clear, the decision, the legislative decision is this authorization, but the subsequent decisions on when and how much to borrow rest with the treasurer and the mayor.
But there's an expectation that we will be informed as to when all of that occurs.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Understood. Thank you, Mr. Clarkson, for your time.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mayor, I hope you're still on the call, and Mr. Clarkson. The reason why I wanted to say something is because I know that you folks have been meeting all along with the development of this particular project. And when we first discussed this back in the council a few months ago, one of the aspects that I brought up is that the public has to have a say on a building that they're actually going to be using. It's not necessarily just the folks that are working in these facilities that should have a say in what goes on in the building. But I'm afraid, from at least from what I'm seeing, the community is basically being kept out of the discussion in terms of how to design this facility so it better serves the folks in this community. It makes very little sense to me that if we're developing a public safety building, that we don't have individuals from the various ethnicities that we actually have in the city as part of this whole discussion, so that they feel that this facility is a friendly or a user-friendly facility that we should have in this community. I mean, I brought up the example of the senior center that was developed over years ago, and that building does not look like a building that belongs in the city of Brockton or in a city to begin with. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is that I want to make sure that if we develop a building that's going to be used for the community, that the community feels that they actually have a say in what the building looks like. And since we're going to come back and ask them to pay for this building, and I'm afraid that for some odd reason, I brought this up when this idea first came up, but somehow it fell on deaf ears in the sense because, again, the community. And I mean, at least the ethnic communities are not being kept in the loop in terms of having a say in what goes on in a building that they're going to be asked to be a part of. And I brought that up, and I'm going to bring it up again, because I feel that if we're going to do this, then again, some of us from this community should have a say what this building looks like.
Madam Chairman, if I could answer the council.
Yes.
No one is being prohibited from participating. What we've been doing, council, is we've been meeting, and again, 2 members of your esteemed council are in those meetings, but it's been discussed week after week that we want it to be inviting and warm and engaging. And you're going to hear from the architect. So this is just a step, Moses, of many steps that are coming down. I told you that night, and I'll tell you again, I would welcome input from all aspects of our community, ethnic and longtime Brocktonians and new Brocktonians. We're all in this together. And I concur with you relative to, if we're going to do this, we have to do it right from a financial standpoint, but also from a people standpoint. So again, I hear you. I agree with you. I support that. But we haven't shunned anybody. We've just been taking steps in terms of hearing from police and fire. IT brought up some really good points that none of us would have thought of if IT wasn't on that. So if the council does agree to this, we will be having additional meetings. I've made that clear at 10 o'clock every Monday, and we'll continue to do that because we only get one shot at this, and it's a hell of a lot of money.
Thank you, Mayor. Are you all set, Councilor Rodriguez, or did you have?
I am fine. I just, again, I'm going to bring up the fact that I understand that some of the councils are participating, but those councils do not come from those ethnic communities that I'm talking about. And I think if we're up to the design stage, that I think the building has to be an appealing building for people that are going to be asked to go into this building to acquire services. So I think it makes sense to get them involved so that they actually have a say what the building looks like.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the resolve that is part of what we're discussing right now said we're inviting all of these people to provide information on the status of the public safety facilities project. And of course, we led with discussing the debt and the cost and all that, and that is totally appropriate given the city's finances. So maybe at this time, someone can give us an overview briefly. Certainly you're going to be back again about this project, a location, a size, who's going to be, what departments will be living there, that kind of a thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Nicastro. I know Councilor Farwell, you had your hand up.
Councilor Nicastro hit on my point. I think the more information that comes out, issues like those raised by our colleague, Councilor Rodriguez, will be answered.
Thank you, Councilor Farwell. At this time, I'm not sure who would like to start the presentation or speak on behalf of the resolve. I know we have a number of people. We have Mr. Schmigel, Mr. Marks, and Mr. Sullivan, as well as Mr. Costa. So not sure how you would like to start this presentation via Zoom, but.
Madam
here we
Chairman, I would think that it would be helpful to have Joe Sullivan and Richard Marks start off, and then the architects can follow, and then any department head. I think that's the way we had thought that it would go in terms of information sharing.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Marks.
Well, good evening, everybody. Very nice to be here on this wonderful occasion, and really appreciate all of the input that we've gotten from the city. We have gotten a lot of input, but Councilor Rodriguez is right. We haven't heard a lot from the citizens, and that's really in the next phase. So I want to make it clear that we haven't made decisions about design. In fact, what we've done is really a feasibility study, and that's what we were engaged to do along with the architect, and really do what we call programming. And programming is to right size the facility with respect to the needs of each department, as the mayor mentioned. So we have 4 departments that we've been working with very closely, not about design, not really about building shape, but more so about how those departments will fit within a space and try to make that as efficient as possible. And so that's the task that we've been doing over the last, I think, about 9 or 10 months. It's flown by, frankly. And so the presentation that we have for you tonight represents that work. But again, don't think that this is a final design, a final even schematic design. It's really just the culmination of that feasibility study. So we have some costs, we have some site plans, and we have some overall sense of what the building will look like. And I think with that, I'll turn it over to Todd and Sean. I don't know if you have do you have this slideshow teed up, Todd or Sean?
Sean does, yeah.
Okay.
We do, yes.
So we have a number of slides that we could pop up on the screen if it's appropriate.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for providing this information in advance to the councilors. I know it was sent to them last week, which is great. That way they got a chance to take a look at it. So thank you, gentlemen. Yes, I think you can pop, I think you can do screen share. Leandra, can you guide them? Who would be sharing it?
Myself, Sean.
Okay. So I think you can, we have done it with BCA. Leandra, can you help us with the screen share?
Not yet.
Let me see. We can't see it, so let me see how.
I still need, the host has to allow me to do this.
Okay, so let's see. Screen share, there we go. Screen share, okay.
I think that's, oh, if you want to put, do you have, you can pull it up on your side. We're seeing your screen right now, Counselor.
It says I'm screen sharing, so I'm trying to, let's see, participants. Oops, oops, oops. Okay, it says that I can. Let me see if she can help me with this, the cable, because. Okay, let's see, screen share. Oh, multiple participants can share, advanced sharing. Do you want advanced sharing options? It's giving me multiple. All participants,
I believe you can
be careful with that security.
Yeah, I believe you can just identify myself with the sharing capability.
One participant can share. Okay, so one participant at a time. Okay, one participant, multiple participants can share simultaneously. All right, sorry, gentlemen, but this, I don't know what it's doing. It's.
Oh, no, here we go. I think you got it now.
Okay.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so again, my name is Sean Schmiegel. I'm the project manager from Castle Blues Associates, and my associate Todd Costa will be discussing this as well. But like Richard just commented on, it's a brief summary of where we've been the last 8 or 9 months. We're going to discuss the process at a high level, summary and kind of walk through where we've been over the last few months and then where we're heading, obviously from hopefully after this evening. So moving forward, which is not allowing me. Sorry. Nope, there we go. I'm going to pass this over to Todd Costa to kind of start us off and move on from here.
Sure. Thank you, Sean. So the obviously just a quick synopsis from the last time that we were before the council. You know, we were looking, City of Brockton was looking for a modern facility in modern operations, state-of-the-art complex. Ultimately, we've gone through the process, as Mr. Marks had said, feasibility study to determine what was correct size for all the departments within the city of Brockton. Sean, if you can go to the next slide, please. The way that process works, excuse me, is we meet with each of the departments individually and come up with a standalone program. That is as if each of these buildings or each of these departments were going to house their own building within the city. What that is you can see the red circle at the bottom right of the screen. Once we went through and did all of that for each individual program, we came up with a tally of what that would be. And it's approximately, just to use round numbers, 149,000 square feet. Part of the same time, and that all those programs happened at the exact same time, or programming efforts. Once we collected all that data, we then sat down and kind of using the conversations with all the departments, looked for synergies between all those departments to make sure that if there was a training center or a training room or something, the meeting room asked for in each of the departments, could all of those be a shared function? So the next step, the next slide, please, was as we looked at that synergistic program and the individual programs, we come up with what it would be to have a consolidated building. And you can see here, that's about 107,000, 108,000 if you use proper rounding and math, for that facility. So ultimately, if you look at this as, you know, right from the starting line, if you would, we're already, next slide, please, Sean. We're already looking at a potential savings with just utilizing the combining of all the departments and sharing of the facilities and sharing of the resources of the building, utilities, mechanical spaces, things of that nature. We're already looking at it, you know, about a 42,000 square foot savings in space and efficiency in this building. So now I'd like to hand it back to Sean, and he'll kind of walk you through the floor plans, excuse me, and how all those spaces kind of came together.
Yep, thank you, Todd. So really, you know, we did review some sites throughout the city. Our interior landscape departments went through about 12 sites. We analyzed them with not only location, access points throughout the city, traffic control, the size of the sites, setbacks, building, the zoning. You know, went through a lot of information just to gather, you know, proximities of locations of sites around the city. Concurrently, while we were doing that, again, what Todd just commented about going through all the programming, we generated diagrams, worked with each department, went through these efficiencies and figured out and resolved the situations of the types of programs, the types of locations throughout the building. So as you'll see, we have about a 4-story building here. This is the lowest level where we'll put most of the building systems, building supports, which is the dark gray areas. Everything in blue here, about to the left-hand side, is the police department, which is the detention block, sally ports, you know, more locker rooms and building support systems. The area in yellow is some of those efficiencies that Todd was alluding to regarding the shared or common areas. So a small wellness center, a lower lobby of in these for the building. You can kind of see there's like a dashed big rectangle outside where it says police storage. That is a parking structure where there was quite a large requirement for on-site parking. So we've allocated roughly 300 spots on site with a parking structure. Going up to the main level, which at grade at street, what you'll see here is pretty much everything to the left-hand side of the main entry, which is that yellow portion, is the police department. The prisoner processing Sally Port is actually on this level. I misrepresented that on the last level. But everything in purple is the detention block. Blue, again, is the police patrol, roll call, and some office spaces here. The middle portion is the yellow, so the main entrance. On the floor portion, main lobby, large shared lobby for both police and fire departments, headquarters, as well as the building, Brockton Emergency Management and Brockton IT. Everything to the right of that main lobby is fire. So you can see the darker red is the apparatus bay, some firematic support spaces to the right, some more firematic support spaces to the left. You have the fire training area, signal divisions, some more storage areas. Fire permitting is at this level, and some additional fire offices. Heading up to the second level, again, you'll kind of see how it's laid out diagrammatically. Everything to the left, police. Everything to the right is fire. And here you start seeing the yellow portion, which is public community meeting area, conference room area for the public to address the building. Everything behind that in that red portion, the pinkish red portion, is fire department living quarters, bunk area. And then everything to the right is the upper level of the apparatus bay, the two-story structure. And again, everything to the left here is police department. So here we have evidence storage, detective divisions, vice division, along with their own training room and meeting rooms as well. Heading up to the upper level, which is the third level from grade. Again, divided up diagrammatically, everything to the left, police. And then we get to this level is the administration level. So police administration in that dark blue region, police dispatch, call takers for both police, fire, and emergency 911, all in that region to the left. Again, shared lobby for public and common areas. Everything to the rear is the fire department administration, chief's offices, chief's offices, captain's offices, lieutenant's offices, and meeting rooms. The peach color is the emergency management operations area, along with their offices. And the green portions is the Brockton IT department. So that's real quick of just really how we started laying out the spaces. It's very diagrammatic. Yes, we were fitting the programming all within these floors. We still have a lot to evolve with each department with these smaller meetings. Again, as Councilor Rodriguez commented on, we're going to bring in the public, and really speak to them directly and work with them to, get their take and their influence on the space. So next couple slides here are some generic exterior renderings of what the building possibly could look like. Again, we're very, very early on. This is one of our first takes of utilizing building materials, not only locally, but, structurally support the building, obviously, and being very, very, very secure. So this image is just looking down the street or 8th Street of the fire department elevation, or the fire department side of the building, the right-hand side of the building. So as you can see the apparatus bay with the apparatus doors, the 5 apparatus bay doors. To the right rear is the training tower, so a higher element that is utilized for fire department training, hose drying, all sorts of other firematic support in that region. And then in the center, you can kind of see the main entry space, 3-story, larger element to kind of attract the public to the main entrance. And then that upper level, that 3rd story, is that administration level that we're just looking at. Looking at the next slide is looking opposite direction of the street, where again, this is the left-hand side of that building, as we're just looking at those floor plans, the police side of the structure. So you can kind of start to see how the solid mass at the lower level, at grade level, talks about the security. That's where the detention blocks are. That's where the locker rooms are, more secured zone. And then a little bit more to the left is the beginnings of that parking structure. And further looking up to the upper levels, you got the administration, you've got department office spaces, so kind of playing with the materials that are modern, attractive to the city of Brockton, and working through. But again, this isn't the final by any means. It's just where we're heading, and then trying to continue to work with the departments on our Monday morning calls, and to get us into the next level to really get into the design and working with each department. So the next slide here, I'll pass it over to either Richard or Joe to start talking about project schedule and budget.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. This is really a preliminary schedule, which, like the rest of the design, is subject to change as we go along. But we really appreciate the fact that the city would like to move the project along as soon as possible, because of the tremendous need that exists. So as you see, during 2021, assuming that there's approval, then we will proceed into what we call design development. It'll be schematic design and design development. We'll do cost estimates along the way. If there's demolition involved, we would do that ahead of time. We'll pre-qualify the contractors, which is something that is part of the state laws now, that allows you to weed out the bottom feeding subcontractors and general contractors that we used to have to deal with, and then proceed into construction documents, which is the finalization of the drawings. So overall, that process will take just about all of 2021. Then again, if this is able to move in a linear fashion without significant hiccups, we could be into construction in the beginning of 2022, and it'll take us about 18 months to build. So we'd have occupancy by the late summer of 2023. That's, again, the most aggressive schedule. If we slip due to any particular reasons, and we certainly hope we don't, that could slide into maybe the end of 2023. So it's a long process. I always like to show people this because everyone wants things done as soon as possible. And we realize that, but even best case, we're looking at 2.5 to 3 years of design and construction still ahead of us. So there's a lot of opportunities for everyone to provide input. And likewise, we need to all be committed to moving this forward as quickly as possible. So thank you for that. And we can come back to questions if you like. So we've done here some comparisons to other police and fire facilities around the Commonwealth. As you can see here, we've taken the cost, the bid cost, which range from 2015 to 2022 projections that we're doing. And we are just about right in the middle at $612 per square foot. So if you see just around that Needham number, 610, Randolph was at 615. So these facilities are expensive. That's a lot of money. The reason it's a lot of money is particularly the security and sound and video equipment that goes into it, which is very expensive. The quality of the building materials themselves, as Sean showed, we use long-lasting materials that are intended to last for 50 to 75 years. The general costs in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for construction, they're down a little bit right now, but we anticipate, unfortunately, by the time this goes out to bid, they're going to be trending back up at the beginning of 2022. We've allowed for that. I want to make that clear. We've allowed for inflation. So we believe that we've covered the costs so that we don't have to go back to the council for future additional funding. That's our intention. And so this is really the product of looking at benchmarks and trying to be kind of in that middle area. So next, please. So 2 cost estimates have been put together. This slide is actually slightly out of date. I think we got the older slide, but that's okay. I can explain it. So we had at the top that initial feasibility study, which the city approved at $100,000. We have fees for owner, project manager, and architect. Not fully negotiated yet, by the way, but we're working on that. We've allowed for some site acquisition costs and especially, of course, construction. So that, I guess it's sixth line, $72 million. That includes the building work, not renovation, but actual new construction, and the parking garage in that $72 million. We've allowed for some miscellaneous costs, furniture and technology, and then after discussions with Troy and Rob, we decided to increase this contingency line item so that the total is now at the $98 million that we reported. So we had updated this slide, but it's really just that one line item that we increased up to match the 98 million. Again, we don't anticipate spending all of these contingencies. We certainly, in most projects, return money to the owner. In other words, we don't spend the full amount, but the authorization request is at the 98 to, again, give us some cushion for unexpected events that may occur, as well as inflation that may occur between now and the time it goes out to bid. So next slide, please.
So again, next steps, obviously after, hopefully moving forward from this evening, but, looking into, again, what Councilor Rodriguez commented on earlier, we're going to hit up schematic design development early next year. And that's when spring and summer we'll have that public outreach and start the input from the public. Start working with any abutters, continue to work with all stakeholders and yourselves, and give monthly updates, bi-monthly updates with everybody. Then really confirm that site layout, site logistics, and all those requirements with the city for permitting and working through the documentation to the end of next summer. And then finally getting into next fall, as looking at Richard's schedule from before, finalize all those designs, finalize costs, budgetary costs, and the final recommended concept to the city. And then obviously finalize it with city council approval and any additional input at the end, any additional work that may proceed from the design over the course of the next year. So that's all that we have at this time. I'm sure there will be a few questions. I'll stop sharing at this point.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Councilor Farwell, you have your...
Just to Sean, I think that slide we just ended with, I think the date should have been 2021.
Correct.
I'm sorry. Yes. It's been a long year. I apologize.
Just a minor typo. To the group, very meticulous analysis of the operational and administrative needs of those four departments. I couldn't begin to tell you how much thought and analysis has gone into this. So I have nothing but praise for our professional people that have joined us on this project. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. And I agree with you. I think you've done amazing work, and this is just the beginning. So we're looking forward to this moving. I know everything moves slowly, but hopefully we'll get there at some point. And it's just an exciting time for Brockton. I think Brockton deserves to have a beautiful public safety facility. And, we're a big city, and this is well needed. It's long overdue. And there's a couple of things that I appreciate. And one of them is that you have brought people that are going to be using this building to the table, and they're part of your meetings, whether it's the police officers, firefighters, IT, BEMA, they're all at these meetings. So you're taking all their comments and, they're working with you on building a building they're going to be able to use. So I think that's wonderful. And I also think it's great that we're looking ahead. We're not going to outgrow it, hopefully not outgrow this anytime soon. So we're building for 20, 30 years down the line. This is a beautiful building. Councilor Thompson, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just had two general questions. The fact that Warren Ave is a one-way, is it anticipated that there'd be a requirement to change that the one way because of, you know, access to the north side of our city from that location? Is we gonna have to do that?
Yes, that has been in discussions. I mean, I believe, I don't know if Rob is still on the call, but there, you know, in addition to some of the improvements in the downtown improvements, that's been considered and is considered for this anticipated location. I see Rob now, so maybe Rob can speak to it a little bit more, but yes, that has been reviewed and discussed.
Well, I would just want to say that the mayor and the management team are looking at multiple locations. Obviously, the Warren Avenue site is something that a lot of us feel near and dear to, but it'll be the mayor who will be informing you of the actual location. But yes, wherever we are, there are going to be some traffic improvements that need to be made and utility improvements to serve this new building.
Okay, thank you for that, Rob. And that's interesting that you said, I thought this was a done deal over at West Elm. So you said, excuse me, on Warren. So other locations we have not finalized the location of this project yet.
Counselor, I can tell you that that is the location that I strongly support. There are, as a lawyer, you'd appreciate, there are some variables there, legalese, that we would need to consider before we actually say 1,000% that's the location. But in my humble opinion, I think that that is the right location for this project. But we need to just work with the solicitor's office, which we're working on right now, and also the assessor's office.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, Rob, one question. So if this is a location, are there any, is this zoned for this type of use, or would we have to change the zoning in this area?
Madam Chair, we would need a zoning variance to allow for the public building to be constructed in that district. It is R1C residential.
Okay. All right, understood. Gentlemen, thank you for all your work on this project. Thank you for the presentation tonight, and I look forward to continuing this discussion.
Thank you, Councilor
Thank you.
Thompson. Any other councilors? Councilor Cruz.
Thank you. A little bit of what Councilor Thompson was just talking about, I don't see anywhere that specifically, I mean, I've heard all along that the old high school is very much considered, but I would think that we'd want some public meetings and input on that. That's probably the biggest part that the public needs some input on. And my question is, you know, Rob says we would need some infrastructure improvements. Are those in this amount of money we're talking about, or are those separate?
Mr. May, I believe Councilor Cruz is asking.
Whoever can answer that.
Oh, okay. Troy, Councilor
That's a Troy.
Clarkson.
I can certainly answer that question. That's part of when the folks, when Richard and Joe were explaining the project budget to you, the contingency that we have in there, part of that is to provide accommodations for making some of those improvements to the traffic and the infrastructure. So we do anticipate that any infrastructure improvements that need to be made would be within that $98 million budget. And there will not be additional funds requested or required to accomplish that. The only the caveat that I would offer would be that it's possible that at the same time or around the same time as this is being constructed, there may be some water sewer infrastructure work that will be funded through a different appropriation. And as you know, over the next several years, there will be significant tens of millions of dollars worth of water and sewer work in the city. And so that work may be funded separately and may be ongoing. So it could be proximate to this, but not directly related. But any infrastructure improvements related to this project at this point are fully funded out of that $98 million.
Because certainly we've all been surprised at the amount of money that we keep being told to change downtown to two-way traffic. And I just want to make sure that that money is part of what we're talking about so that we know that what we don't want is surprises. You know, we don't want to say 98 million and find out that, oh, there was 5 here and 3 here and we're up to 110, that we're outside of the scope of what we're talking about. I just want to make sure that in that 98 that we intend to approve, well, I'm going to vote to approve it anyways. Those improvements we need to make are in there.
So the answer to that, absolutely, Counselor, is yes. However, that's infrastructure improvements related to the public safety complex. As you know, the downtown two-way traffic goes far beyond that one piece of land, and that project stands on its own, and the funding for that at some point will come to you and as a project that stands on its own, because obviously the scope of that goes far beyond whatever site it winds up
But
being.
my question is, and I just want to make sure we're all talking the same language here. I mean, clearly, if we put a fire station on Warren Ave near the top of Legion Parkway, you need to go left and right. I would think Chief Williams is on here. I would think that's something you'd insist on, correct?
Yes, Council, that is correct. And that has been discussed. We know that we're going to need to take a left out of that station just to get down Warren Ave, up Pleasant Street, which is a majority of our calls these days. So.
And while I've got you, I assume this would mean closing Pleasant Street?
You know what, Counselor, that really hasn't been discussed. Yes, we would be moving that entire operation to this new facility, but as far as what would be done with those 2 buildings on that site, I'm really not sure.
Okay, but you wouldn't envision it closing any other buildings?
No, just my central fire station and the fire alarm building next door.
And moving your offices down there, I assume?
Correct. Yeah, that would affect my west side station where my offices are now. But I'm sure some plans would be put in place about what to do with that extra space up there. We certainly wouldn't abandon it. We could use it.
Thank you. And Madam Chairman, just a point of parliamentary procedure. We didn't vote to take these 2 collectively. Since we're voting to do a $98 million bond, we should probably take that vote first so that we haven't messed up anything for the bonding.
Okay, no, so we will vote on them. I thought we did. We
just did, there's no objection, but I think we're going to be voting to approve $98 million in bonding. I think we better make sure we do it right.
Correct. Thank you, Counselor. We'll do a roll call vote after to take them collectively and to vote on.
And then to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Monahan.
Yes, thank you. Counselor Cruz did cover most of what I wanted to, but as far as the traffic pattern on Warren Avenue, won't the downtown have to be involved in that? So we're going to have that Main Street two-way traffic or whatever we're doing in that area addressed before we change the traffic pattern of Warren Avenue, because that all has to be connected. So as far as I can see, is that what's in the works right now? Would that be?
Counselor Monahan, did we lose you or?
Can you hear me?
Now we can. So you were asking a question?
Yes, I said Counselor Cruz covered most of what I wanted to, but my question was, as far as the two-way traffic on Warren Ave, the traffic patterns would have to be intertwined or involved with downtown, the two-way traffic coming back down on Main Street. Wouldn't that all have to be worked in together? So we would probably have to have that downtown done at the same time.
Mr. May, do you want to answer Counselor Monahan's question, please?
Yes, Counselor, through you. Larry Rowley and I have been working with a preferred vendor right now, VHB, to advance the two-way planning. And we are working on the assumption that the engineering should be done all ahead of time, or at least the design done ahead of time, so we know how the entire system works. But any conversion to two-way traffic in downtown would probably be phased in over several sections. Obviously, if you're going to do Warren Ave, there's a whole series of intersections that need to be looked at the same time. But it is possible to do Warren Avenue before Main Street or Main Street before Warren Avenue, or some combination thereof.
But obviously, you're looking to get that done as soon as possible, and that's going to be separate from the funding from this.
That is correct, and we're working with Mr. Clarkson on that now.
Okay, and just something on a good note, although I haven't really been involved with any of this planning, even though it's in my ward, to have that in that area going down the Highland Street, and we obviously have problems with the gas station at the top of the Legion Parkway. I just think if we have this in the next few years, it's going to clean up the downtown immensely. It's going to help downtown business. It's really just going to make the people that are down in that area a heck of a lot happier. And I just see it as a great boom for the city to have this project in the downtown area. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Farwell.
Yes, just very briefly, having participated in all these meetings, I think if we isolate the issue of traffic between Spring and West Elm, that will move this project along. I think we need to be careful not to intertwine the public safety facility project in with downtown traffic, which is, last I read, I think was $38 million, 27 for the traffic and 11 for infrastructure, because we don't want to delay this project that could escalate costs. So I think it's really important that we do what we need to do between Spring and West Elm, and that will facilitate the needs of the fire department. The last thing I would say is that there's one thing I've learned. The fire department kind of has a trump card to play here, because their need to respond to the call volume in certain areas is what really drives this downtown facility. I mean, they've got to be in an area where we do not elongate any response times based on the call volume they have. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors have any questions or comments? No. So at this time, we're going to take a vote on we took these two items collectively. So Madam Clerk, can you read the roll, please? We're voting that we took them collectively.
Azak,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eanieri,
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Thompson.
Yes.
That's 10 in the affirmative.
Madam Clerk, I'd be happy now to make a motion to recommend this favorably to the full city council.
Thank you, Counselor. A motion was made and properly seconded to recommend these items favorably to the full city council. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Azak,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eanieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The order and the resolve go back favorably to the full city council. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone who worked on this and for your presentation this evening.
Thank you, councilors. Happy holidays. Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Same to you. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, item number 13.
Ordered that the City Council hereby declare the city-owned parcel at West Elm Street, Brockton, Mass., known as Keith Field, Assessor Map 58, Route 71-1, Plot 56, being the same premises shown on Plan of Land in Brockton, June 12, 1920, Hayward and Hayward Surveyors, 28 Main Street, Brockton, filed with Plymouth County Land Court Records as a surplus and available for disposition.
Councilor Cruz?
Madam Clerk, Chairman, I just want to say this is my mistake that this is even on finance agenda. I had actually made a motion to postpone 2 weeks when this was back at council, and instead I must have made a motion to send it to finance. I'd like to make a motion to recommend this favorably.
Second.
A motion was made and properly seconded.
On the motion.
Councilman Castro on the motion.
Thank you. I just wanted to express surprise that there was no one asked to come here to speak to us on this. I did reach out to both the city solicitor and to our legislative counsel, Shannon Resnick, today. I did speak to Shannon about it. I would think that you would all want to know where the city's negotiations are at on this. And yet there's no one here to speak on it. And I think that's very, very important information for us to know before we make a recommendation either way. This field is a big deal.
So Counselor, I just, that's the reason Counselor Cruz made that comment. He hadn't, and I remember very well that he had actually postponed it to a future meeting of the city council, but somehow it ended up in finance. And the reason we didn't have any invited guests is when the attorney reached out to me, this was heard in real estate. You're on the real estate committee. It's already been heard on real estate. It's been before us on city council. So that is the reason why we felt it, it didn't need to have any, anybody have any questions this evening on it. So that's the reason for that. That's why there were no invited guests, because it ended up here by accident. But and it was kind of last minute. We had already drawn up the agenda when the proposal was made to have somebody come before us.
Madam Chairperson?
Councilor Eanieri?
Yes, thank you. I just had conversation just a little bit ago while you people were discussing the other issue with school committee, Mr. DiGastino, because I wanted to know just what the school committee had discussed, because when I watched the school committee building subcommittee meeting a few weeks ago, they were discussing this issue with their attorney. Naturally, because of the way it's phrased and the way it's put down, it was 100 years ago that the school committee was the one that had the oversight, to this property. They were also investigating just to make sure that everything would be clear and cut from them, because it did give them the jurisdiction of maintaining this this piece of property. So I spoke with him, and they did meet with our city solicitors and their attorney as well. The school committee did, and I believe they're agreeable to what's being done. Naturally, they don't want to lose the fact that we have a chance to have a field there for for our folks, our kids to play soccer on. So I asked him to please send over to the city clerk a synopsis of what they discussed so that we could see it and have it on file as well, because I think it's most important that would be part of this process. But Mark indicated that there shouldn't be really any holdup to what is before us here this evening on this particular piece of property. So I just want to let you know that. But there is a synopsis coming, and I told him to make sure we'd have it in time for our meeting for Monday evening, the 28th, when we make a finalization. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Fowler?
Just briefly, I spoke with our legislative counsel over the weekend, and I indicated I really wanted to have her here tonight. Can someone confirm that the school committee and the city solicitor and our legislative counsel have all gotten together and that they have worked out an agreement as to what would proceed if this is voted upon favorably and then adopted by the council? Because if that's true, I have no problem with it. Do I have that right? Can someone confirm that?
If I could just, if I might, Madam Chair, just to mention, I believe Mark DiGastino mentioned to me that there must be, I think he mentioned.
I said, who are
you?
you?
I can't, you hear me? It's not me, Google and Gaga, and it's somebody else, but I think there's a form that has to be filled out, a 15A, and I may be wrong on that. I may have misunderstood them, that they agreed upon that would, clear this whole situation up and make it so that this particular partial would be available for what we're trying to do. But that's what he told me anyways, and everybody was agreeable. from what he indicated as well, our legal counsel and I believe the city solicitor's office. Best I can tell you, Councilor Fowle.
That, I thank you, Councilor Eanieri. That's fine with me. That's what I needed to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're muted, Shirley.
Thank you. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So is it for procedurally? There seems to be some questions that are still out there that need to be answered. Those questions anticipated to be answered at our next city council meeting? Or would this go back to city council to then go back to real estate to get those answers? Or procedurally, how does it look like we're going to move forward with this?
Madam Chairman, if I could,
Counselor Cruz.
through you to Councilor Thompson, all we're voting on is to declare the land surplus. The mayor will be putting together, and most of it, I think, is put together an RFP for this proposed project. The school department will still have control of the field, which is the biggest, I think, concern that some councilors have. The only bone we have in this is to declare the land surplus so the mayor can start a process of an RFP for a nonprofit serving the youth of Brockton to come in. And again, it's probably the Boys and Girls Club, but it's not guaranteed to be. It'll be open to any bidder. And then when the project is done, the field and will still be under the control, still be the Keith Field under the control of the school department. But the only thing we're voting on is declaring the land surplus, because the mayor can't start that RFP process until he's able to do
that. Through you, Madam Chairwoman, to Councilor Cruz.
Counselor Thompson here.
Yeah, so I know I originally got information over this piece of property. So that question has been answered, that the city council does have the control over the property to declare it surplus. I believe that's what the question was. And have we answered that satisfactorily?
Yes, I've been told by our clerk, our attorney and the city solicitor both believe, and then they do have that paperwork. I believe it's 15A or something that they need to do with the school department. But just so the public knows and the people who are concerned about it, and I am too, the school department, when this is done, will have control of this field.
Okay. Again, through you, Madam Chairwoman, is it possible that we can get that documentation prior to the final vote at the next city council meeting?
Madam Chair.
Counselor Eanieri, I know I have Counselor Castro who's had her hand up for a while, but were you answering Counselor Thompson or?
I was answering Councilor Thompson, yes. Vice Chair of the school committee, Mr. DeGustine, promised me that he was going to work on this tomorrow and make sure that the information would be hopefully right into the clerk's office no later than tomorrow, Wednesday. Hopefully it will be on our desk for Monday evening, December 28th. I'll follow up with him tomorrow morning again. I'll call him to make sure that it will take place, but he said he would take care of it. That document.
I'm satisfied with that answer. Thank you, Madam President, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Counselor Castro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to echo what my different colleagues have said. And also looking at my notes from speaking with Attorney Resnick today, and she said next week she will speak to us about all of this before any vote. And she also said it would come back in front of us for as Councilor Eanieri said, a Chapter 15A vote that both the school committee and the city council will have to make after the responses to the RFP come in. So we retain some control over it, and we'll get more information next week, is what she said. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Lally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, sort of list my support for this and note that we're not the end of this. I know it's been said and discussed. This is going to go to the mayor, who's going to put together exactly what part of the land would be bid out, the stipulations, the things that we're looking for. and he's going to assign a bid committee. I know it was practice of prior administrations to put the ward counselor or a counselor at large, if the ward counselor can't make it, on the bid committee. Possibly a representative from the school committee if they're worried about the field. This is, like Councillor Cruz said, this is just to move it along. This is us declaring it surplus, but the actual decision is made by the mayor. And in the school committee, we'll have a vote later. So I think this is worthwhile. And I think that, a lot of the concerns, a lot of the things that people feel are up in the air are really within control of the mayor. And I feel the mayor would be receptive to the concerns of the council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Lally. Any other councilors? Councilor Cruz?
All set, just looking for the vote.
Make a motion to recommend favorably to the full city council.
Already have that motion.
A motion was made and properly seconded earlier, so Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Azak,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eanieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The order goes back favorably to the full city council. Madam Clerk, number 14.
Resolved to invite Miss Joanne Zeigman of Brockton, as she serves as chair of the Central Plymouth County Water District Commission, to come before a committee of this council to discuss current work and projects of the commission, including without limitation, a proposed water monitoring program for Silver Lake. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Joanne Zeigman.
Good evening. I know Joanne, good evening, Joanne, you're on with us this evening. Councilor Castro, you asked to speak on this in advance. Ahead.
Thank you. Very, very briefly, our last item of the evening. I have attended several meetings of the Plymouth County Water District, and they're very interesting. And I just want to say the city of Brockton is very fortunate that Ward 6 resident Joanne Zeigman agreed to sit on this as our person on this, and also to serve as its chair. And she's come this evening to discuss several projects that are in front of them, and also a little bit of background on this commission. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Good evening, Ms. Zeigman. Welcome.
Thank you. Good
Have the
evening.
floor.
Thank you. Good evening. Councilors, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Joanne Zeigman. I'm the Brockton representative and chair of the Central Plymouth County Water District Commission. Thank you all for your commitment to ensuring our city has safe, affordable, and sustainable drinking water today and for generations to come. I'm here this evening to provide new councilors with an overview of what the commission does, to update the council on our progress, and also to welcome you all to collaborate with us, which is very much the emphasis of what we're all about. So the Central Plymouth County Water District includes Brockton and 7 towns east of the city. The district was created as an emergency act of the Massachusetts legislature in 1964 to address critical water shortage in Brockton. For quite literally 100+ years, our city has struggled to find enough water to meet the needs of its growing population of residents and businesses. Today, it's not just about growth that's putting our water supplies under pressure, but it's also significant droughts that are related to a changing climate, as well as a deteriorating water quality problem. And because we value a healthy natural environment, something folks generations back didn't always understand, we need to find ways of meeting our needs without destroying the natural environment on which we rely for life. So the objectives of the Central Plymouth County Water District Commission within our district area are straightforward. First, to ensure existing water supplies remain healthy. Also, to prevent irreversible environmental degradation across water bodies. And lastly, to help provide sustainable drinking water supplies for all. As some of you probably, in fact, most of you know, over 90% of Brockton's water supply is from Silver Lake, which is about 15 miles southeast of Brockton. We have a complicated system. In fact, about 70% of that 90% is actually water that's diverted into Silver Lake from badly impaired water bodies of Monpont Pond and Furnace Pond. A common misconception is that Brockton has access water supply. This simply isn't true. We do not have access water supply. The fact is that Brockton takes too much water from the Silver Lake system already, and that's because it doesn't have any other affordable options, even while using 1 million gallons a day from the Aquaria desalinization plant. And Brockton isn't the only community in our area that has water supply challenges. It's actually a pretty common problem across the region. So what is the commission doing? We're launching 3 projects. The first is we're in discussions with the Division of Marine Fisheries to partner on the purchase of a hydro dredge, which is a little bit like a vacuum cleaner for water bodies. The dredge will enable DMF and our partners to unclog waterways and improve flow for the purposes of, for example, restoring important fish runs, which are valuable to our state economy. The equipment will also be available for Brockton and towns in our district to use for ecological restoration projects, or even perhaps for mosquito control. This work will help mitigate some of the impact of our withdrawals on the completely different ecosystem from the watershed here in Brockton. Second, we've contracted with a water quality expert to help us develop an RFP for a multi-year water quality monitoring program at Silver Lake. We need to understand what the diversions of the grossly impaired Monpont Pond and the impaired Furnace Pond are doing to Silver Lake, which is one of the most important natural lakes in the Commonwealth, but our management is degrading. Knowing whether or not Brockton's main water supply is healthy year to year is crucial to remaining confident in our ability to use it for drinking water for many years to come, and also to control our treatment costs. Lastly, both Mayor Sullivan and DPW Commissioner Larry Rowley are supportive of collaborating with the Commission on our 3rd project, which we're proposing be a district-wide study of communities' water supply needs, existing resources, and potential alternative and/or supplemental water supplies. Such a study would help Brockton assess its needs in the context of regional needs and inform the conversation around whether a regionalized water system would benefit both Brockton and surrounding towns. Laying out all the costs and benefits of various water supply options in an independent, high-quality study would help this council make more informed decisions about where investment in our water infrastructure is needed. Perhaps more importantly, it could help Brockton come to a decision about water supply and management that may finally resolve our supply issues for generations to come. It'd be pretty fantastic to have a lasting legacy after 100 years of scrambling to find and pay for water supply. So this evening, I welcome any questions that you may have on the commission, its role, its responsibilities, or any of the projects that I've described to you. We also do have a website, centralplymouthcountywater.org, which folks listening in tonight and counselors, please do check that out. It includes meeting minutes and dates, as well as some general information about the commission. There are contact details on that website through which you can get in touch with me or any of the commissioners. And of course, you can ask Councillor Nicastro for my email or my cell phone number, and I'm happy to be available for any questions at any time. So thank you for your time this evening. And thank you, Councillor Nicastro, for filing the resolve that enabled me to be here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Zigmund. Thank you for all your hard work on the commission. Councilors, any questions for Ms. Zigmund? Well, that's easy. We'll entertain a motion. Councilor Thompson, do you have your hand up, or?
Yeah, so if nobody's, I'll ask 2 questions. And thank you, Joanne, for appearing tonight, and thank you for your service to our city on the on this water commission. It is very much appreciated. So you mentioned that there are 7 cities and towns that are on this commission, other than Brockton, or Brockton may be one of the 7. What are those 7?
Sure. So the And of course, just as you asked that question, my screen decides to go to sleep on my laptop here. And I want to make sure that I get these right for you. So in addition to Brockton, the district, which was created in the initial legislative act, includes Whitman, East Bridgewater, Hanson, Pembroke, Halifax, Plimpton, and Kingston.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Secondly, now you mentioned something about the commission's desire to purchase a dredge, or what was you guys wanted to use a dredge? It was my understanding that Plymouth County had a dredge. Is that accessible to the Water Commission?
No, so we're actually talking about a different piece of equipment. That's a common question that we get. I don't know the ins and outs of the details of the equipment that the county has, but the county is actually our, they provide administrative services for our commission, and Frank Basler, who's the county administrator, has been involved in our conversations on the dredge, and he assures us that it's a totally different piece of equipment. My understanding is that the dredge that the county owns at the moment isn't capable of small projects that would, for example, I don't know if you've been out to the Silver Lake area, but between Silver Lake and the Brockton Dam, there is what is called Forge Pond, which actually shouldn't be a pond at all. It should just be an outflow from Silver Lake and down the Jones River. So this hydro dredge will have the capability, for example, to go into that Forge Pond and clear it out, so that migrating fish are able to pass and the flow generally improves. So it's a much more nimble, smaller piece of equipment. And I can definitely send you more specs on that. DMF, this isn't at all my area of expertise. DMF is working with my fellow commissioner, Jack O'Leary, who's an engineer, as well as some of our other partners in the district, to identify exactly what capabilities we need within this dredge, because I guess there's different vacuum cleaner sizes, if you will. But I can forward more information to you for sure that will help you understand what the difference is.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Joanne. And thank you for your time.
Very welcome.
Thank you. Any other Councilor Cruz?
Yeah, just one quick question, Joanne. Thank you for serving on this. Things like the dredge, how is that paid for?
So we work very closely with Senator Brady's office, and we've been fortunate to have budget allocated to us over a, let's see, I've been serving for 3 years, and I think probably 1 or 2 years prior to that. So the state gives us a budget. It varies year to year. Usually it's about 50,000 administrative, roughly 100,000 for projects. And so the dredge will be paid out of that budget, and DMF would be contributing significant in-kind time and resources that are kind of being worked out at the moment, as well as a couple of other partners, such as the watershed organization in the area.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors have any questions? Seeing none.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
A motion was made and properly seconded to recommend favorably back to the full city council. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Azak,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eanieri,
Yes.
Farwell. Councilor Farwell,
You're muted, Councilor Farwell.
Yes.
thank you. Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
and in the affirmative.
The resolve goes back favorably to the full city council. Thank you again for your service and for being on here this evening, Ms. Sigmund.
Good night.
Good night. Councilors, that concludes our agenda for this evening. I would just like to remind everybody of a few things. First of all, this evening, at the same time as our meeting, Brockton High School presented their first virtual holiday concert live via Brockton Cable Access. It was on Channel 98, but you can, if you missed it, you can view it on YouTube. And I'll be watching my favorite flutist, my youngest daughter, Georgina, who participated in this. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I hope everybody at home will be able to view the talents of our youth at Brockton High School, whether they're in the concert, they're in the band, or in chorus. So thank you to all who actually made it possible for the students to be able to put on this concert. Thank you to their directors and everyone involved at the school department. I would also like to just remind everybody at home that the grab and go meals that are provided through the school department via Chartwells are available from Monday to Wednesday this week from 2 to 5 p.m. And they're giving away extra meals so everyone can have meals over the winter recess. Meals will resume on January 4th, 2021. So make sure that if you need more information, you can go on to the Brockton Public School website or call any one of us or check out the city website. There should be nobody that doesn't have any that goes hungry in the city of Brockton. I mean, this is a generous program, and they're making sure that all our students have food throughout even during winter recess. With that being said, I would actually, on behalf of Councilor Cruz, Councilor Cruz.
I just want to remind the members of the ordinance committee that next Tuesday evening on the 29th at 6:30, we will be having a Zoom ordinance meeting. It should be a short meeting, but we do have a meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just wanted to wish all my fellow city councilors, all of my constituents in Ward 5 and all residents of Brockton a very Merry Christmas. I know it's been a difficult year for all of us, but this is a time to rejoice and spend time with our family and friends. And so I hope everybody enjoys that time with their families and friends. And again, I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors need any moments of personal recognition? Well, no. So on behalf of the full council, I'd like to wish everybody at home a happy, healthy holiday season. And to all who celebrate Christmas, a very merry and joyous Christmas. Enjoy this time with your families and friends. And with that,
concludes the rest of us.
Have a Merry Christmas. And this concludes our meeting. This meeting's adjourned.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Good night.